Hey guys, hope everyone's doing well. We have got a hopefully what's going to be a pretty cool and useful little kind of exercise for you to do today. What we're going to talk about is race strategies, particularly focusing on preparing your mind. So I'm sure we've all been in that kind of position before where we are coming up to some sort of test or some sort of race. We can get quite into those details of what split we want to have, what rate we want to have, what we're focusing on while we're rowing. By my experience as a coach over the last 10-15 years, you just see a lot of people that are really missing a piece by not really planning what's going to be going on in their head. So what they're going to think and what they're going to tell themselves. So that's what we're going to get into today, is just trying to prepare our minds so that we can execute on the day to the best of our physical ability. So just a quick disclaimer before we start. So these strategies are to supplement a realistic race plan. So most of what we're going to talk about today is a 2K erg performance. So this will only work if you have a realistic plan. So you need to speak with your coach, do your prep sessions, do your predictor sessions, and work out what is actually a realistic goal for you. Okay, so this is not a magic pill that is going to make you go 10 seconds quicker out of nowhere. So let's just get that one out on the table up front. So the basics of what we're going to do. First of all, we're going to break the test or the race up into sections. For today, we've done a 2K, so I've just broken it up into 4 500s. But it's completely up to you. However you want to break a race down, break it how you want. And then after that, we're going to then have 4 columns, as we'll see on the next slide or next couple of slides. So the first one is a race plan, the second one is the self-talk, and then kind of to supplement that self-talk, we're going to note down what we might have as a positive, relatable experience of being in the same situation, and also a negative relatable experience. So this is what your finished product should look like. So this is like a 2K strategy sheet, shall we say. So as you can see, that first column, we've got the race plan. So that's kind of how we're going to do, or what we're trying to achieve, the specific splits, the technical calls, and then really what this training is about is those next 3 columns. So positive self-talk in a race situation can be a really, really powerful tool. So it's very easy in a race situation or any performance situation to start thinking about what might go wrong, or what has gone wrong in the past, what might go wrong today. Generally, nothing. Obviously we are going to address some negative experiences, but generally thinking negatively in that moment of performance can be quite catastrophic, and generally nothing good is going to come out of it. So that's kind of what I've put into this column. So these are just a few examples of something that you might use, and again, really specific to the 2K erg test, I'd say this ties into just being sensible with your pacing. So in that first 500, once we've gone off the start, we've done that short start, we're into our rhythm. Really what you need to be telling yourself in that moment, or what I would recommend telling yourself, is just enjoy that part. Okay, that is when, if your race plan is to just stay consistent for the first 1K 1250, that's where you just need to be in that moment thinking, this is going to be the easiest part, and I'm going to continue to make it feel easy. I do not want this to feel difficult in any way. And as I've said there, enjoy it. As we go into the second 500, we're starting to kind of feel the kind of lactate build up a little bit, starting to breathe a little bit harder, the heart rate's coming up. This is when you just got to tell yourself that, like, okay, I know this split is going to feel a bit harder now. That's what should happen, okay? And just knowing what a test is going to feel like is like a really key part of this entire exercise, because if we don't kind of face up to that, that's when those mistakes are going to start to creep in early on. And, we just have to be realistic. Like, if you're going to do a 2K test and you're trying to execute to the absolute limit of what you're physically capable of on that day, it is going to feel uncomfortable. And not all the way through, but at some point it is going to get uncomfortable, and you are going to be starting to push your body and your physiology to its limit. And you just have to be honest about that is going to be challenging, okay? So just moving on from that, kind of, as I said here, something else you could tell yourself, you notice that I've tried to use positive language all the way through this column as well. That third 500, I would say to myself, I'm in control of this test. I'm enjoying challenging myself. Like, I've put all of this training in. This is a marker now of I'm challenging myself to show what I can really do. And if you're not enjoying that challenge, if you're not putting yourself in a position where you can enjoy that challenge, then it's much likely that you're not going to be pleased with the outcome of this test in particular. Into that last 500, again, this is just building on, have you paced yourself correctly? Okay, so you might say something like, just being positive, like the line is getting closer. In the last 500, I'm between, a minute 25 to, 2 minutes 10 to go. Every stroke you're taking at that point is getting you closer to the line. It's hurting, but you can do it, and just, keep telling yourself that, feeding into what that part of the race plan is you're taking 2 big strokes on the legs every 100 meters to drop 1 split. And however much quicker you can do that last 500 is how much quicker you're going to do the 2K overall. So it's a really nice position to be in that last 500, being able to step it on, seeing that average drop, the average split drop, seeing the predicted time get faster and faster, and that all just builds on getting yourself to the end of that race as you said that you were going to, and still being in control, ready to push on, and looking forward to pushing on. And I guess it's like I've said a few times here about just being proud of the effort, being pleased with the effort that you're putting in, and knowing it's the best that you can do on that day. So those last 2 columns, as we'll kind of go into this in a little bit more detail in a second, but just reflect on a positive, relatable experience. So you kind of use some good examples here. I'm probably not going to go through every single one of them. I've put not applicable in a couple of them because you don't have to have a relatable experience for every single one, but just think of what you need individually. Like if there's a part of a 2K, or there's an approach to a certain bit of a 2K that that you need to do a little bit better, and that you maybe have not done so well in the past, that's the part that you really need to get this right on. So you can relate to a time when you got it right, and you can also relate to a time when you got it wrong. So that's how we want this sheet to look overall. Go on to the next slide. So yeah, the race plan is what you're going to do. Self-talk is you telling yourself how you're going to achieve that. And I think the really key thing, as I put there, just keep your inner dialogue positive, okay? There's almost no good can come from telling yourself negative thoughts in the middle of a performance environment. A really good way I like to think about it is think of, we've all been there where your friend or your teammate is doing a test on the erg. If you're sat behind them and you're willing them to get a good score, you're probably not going to be sat behind them being like, oh, this is hurting a bit now. Like, I'm actually not sure if you can do this, mate. Like, maybe we should just back off a bit. Or remember that time before when you put the handle down. Like, you just wouldn't do that. Okay? So that's a really good focus, is think about talking to yourself like you would a friend who is completing the same test. Okay? Kind of touched on this already, but having those relatable experiences, when you think back to those positive experiences, the really key thing is thinking about how you felt in that moment, because it's quite easy to recall that, and that good feeling of this is going well, I'm challenging myself, I'm really proud of the effort that I'm putting in, and also as a result of that, because your effort was great and it was something you were proud of, you're then happy with the outcome as well. And then with a negative relatable experience, again, just reminding yourself when you haven't got it right, because it's good to just address why that happened and also, again, what that felt like. And as I put there, it may seem counterintuitive, but if you know that negative thoughts always creep up in a performance situation, but not usually in between, then you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're expecting it to happen and you've done nothing about it. Okay, so if you had a 2K 3 months ago, you've experienced no negative thoughts in any other performance, but you know it's probably going to happen on your next one, the worst thing you can do is just ignore it. Okay, like if it is something that happens, it's not anything to be ashamed of. It literally happens to everybody, but the only way to overcome it is, or one of the ways to overcome it, is to face up to it. And you just got to acknowledge those feelings, why they happen, and also just give some time to just sit with those feelings. For those of you that have got access to the full resource hub, there's another video I've done on thought challenging, and that kind of ties into that as well. And then I guess once you've got that sheet, once you kind of understand what we're trying to do with this this kind of protocol, is you just got to practice it over and over again. The good thing about this is that if you want to practice a run through of a race plan and positive self-talk and what you're going to tell yourself, it's not like when we're doing specific 2K prep. Like, you don't have to wait till you're doing your 2 1Ks or your 8 500s. You can run through this at any intensity anytime you're going over 2K. So if you're just doing a UT2 session and you've got a 6K straight through, you've got 3 chances to go through it and watch those meters tick down, practice how you want it to feel. And trust me, you cannot be too good at this. Like, you can't be too mentally strong, you can't be too positive, you can't be too good at setting yourself up for performance. So it's just like anything. It's like the rowing stroke. Like, the more you practice it and the more you apply yourself to it, then the easier it's going to be when you're doing it in that moment. So, like, don't look at this and just think, oh, I'll only do it when I'm doing my prep. You can do this at any time. I mean, you could do it just watching a 2K. Like, you could do this watching an Olympic race, a World Championship race, any race that you've been a part of, and you know, it's all a good opportunity to go through it properly. So that's the whole thing again. The other thing I would strongly recommend when you're coming up to a performance, particularly a 2K, is have a plan A, B, and C. Okay, so if you only have one plan and it's just a really hard score to achieve, like, you know you can do it, but it will be right at the top end of what you're capable of, then all you're doing is setting yourself up to win or lose. Okay, so if you have a target range and you have several different plans of how you want to get there, so what I'd recommend if you have a plan A, B, and C is that you will literally have 3 different plans with 3 different target scores and 3 different actual race plans to get there. Because if you have a target range and you get 750 in, 1250 in, and think, okay, I'm really doing everything I can, but I'm just not quite on that plan A anymore, then you're already equipped mentally to be like, right, I'm going to go straight to plan B because I know exactly what that's going to be. And actually just making that step from plan A to plan B might mean you go 2 seconds slow overall, but it just gives you the flexibility to make those decisions and to just still, I guess, come away with a result and an effort that you can be pleased with. Whereas if you have, if all you have is plan A, then your chances of kind of perceived failure are going to be significantly increased. Like, if I'm aiming for a 605 and I come through halfway and my average split is 133.9, and that's the only plan I have, then I'm just thinking, right, well, I'm not going to achieve the one goal that I had. And if you perceive yourself to be failing in the middle of a test, that can be psychologically quite catastrophic, okay? And you'd have to be, in my opinion, extremely mentally robust to be able to just switch your plan in that moment without having written those plans down beforehand. So yeah, as I've said here, plan A is everything goes perfectly. It's the best score that you could physically achieve. All the stars align on that day, and you've absolutely smashed it. Okay, so that would be your plan A. Plan B is a solid execution in line with your prep. It might be 1 second quicker, 1 second slower than you predicted. And plan C, it might be that you end up being 2-3 seconds slower than you wanted to, or that your prep should have suggested, but you did the best that you could in the moment. And some days you just don't have it on the day for a number of reasons. But I would strongly argue that someone who has a plan B and C could have a lot more potential performances that they will be happy with versus someone who only has plan A and doesn't hit it, and then quite often in their eyes it's just a total catastrophe because I didn't achieve the one goal that I had, when in reality maybe that one goal was slightly overreaching for that day and based on the training and prep that had been done up to that point. Okay, so I'm just going to finish up with just screenshot the next slide. So if you're watching this on YouTube, just take a little screenshot. Obviously, if you're somebody I'm already coaching one-to-one, I can just send you this directly anyway. But just a nice, I'm going to move my face out of the way. Just nice, easy one that you can kind of screenshot and print, and you can kind of go through your own race plan. So, like, I guess just to summarize that, we spend, as rowers, we spend hours and hours and hours of training, and we prepare and we rig the boats and we come up with these really minute race plans. And just to kind of get across that if you spent 10 minutes, 15 minutes extra a week even, just trying to go through this kind of protocol of planning what you're going to think, telling yourself how you're going to say it in the moment, I honestly believe that, to me, that's just free speed, and it's a really, really good approach to have. And it's not just for the 2K, it goes for any racer, it's for any performance situation. But if you go through this process and you see the benefits, you will never go back to not doing it again. I absolutely guarantee that. Okay, so hope everybody found that useful. Drop me a message if you need any further explanation, but yeah, just go away, give it a try, execute on it, and I absolutely guarantee you will see the benefit. Thank you.